Yo, what's up chefs, it's Vinny, and welcome to my comprehensive endgame progression guide. The video topics should be popping up on screen now, either via a notepad, or maybe I'll try and make it look pretty somehow. But either way, if everything goes according to plan, then the chapters you can find on the YouTube video should roughly mirror these topics in case you want to skip around to something in specific, or should you need to come back to this video in the future to revisit something. With that being said, I'm going to try something a little new, where the first topic of the video, if you want to call it that, is effectively just going to be a TLDR of all of the other topics combined, or what I would do if I was starting over with everything I know now. So this will be for the people that are already maybe comfortable with the end game, but you just want to get a different perspective, or you don't have a lot of time to play, or for whatever reason, you just want the quick and dirty version of how to efficiently progress in the end game, then that section should be perfect for you. Then after that, I'm just going to go into more detail on a plethora of other specific topics that I think are very important, or questions I've gotten a lot in chat and stuff like that. So let's get started. Alrighty, so starting off with the TLDR, right after you beat Doriani in Act 3 Cruel, you should find yourself in a place like this. This is called the Ziggurat Refuge. If you end up getting lost and go to your hideout or something, you don't know how to get back here, you can find it in Act 3 Cruel. It'll be right down here, the Ziggurat Refuge. Once you're here, you should wake up on like a little bed. You need to talk to Doriani, and you'll need to do your first map from this map device. He should give you like some little intro text, kind of tell you what's going on. You need to cleanse the corruption, all that good stuff. Go do your first map, easy peasy. Once you're done with that, come back to the waypoint, and you can come to your hideout. Once you're here, if you've never, messed with your hideout before, that's fine. I'll put a link to a website in the description, and I'll try and put like the URL on screen or something. Place you can go, there's full hideout imports. You can import a hideout from there. You can use this little thing right here. This is actually how I got my hideout. Doesn't really matter what you do with this, customize it however you like. The only thing I'm going to recommend is that you put your stash, Doriani, and your map device very close to each other, as well as your salvage bench too actually, and this other vendor, so you can buy or sell or disenchant stuff. The reason you're going to put Doriani here is because after you get done with maps, you should come to Doriani, control click him, control left click. I don't know what the input is for controller, I'm sorry, but if you control click him on PC, he will instantly identify all of the items in your inventory. You're going to go to your stash. Hopefully you're going to have a dump tab set up, so like a quad tab or a couple of quad tabs that you can literally at that point just slam all of the stuff in your inventory directly into the quad tab, throw another map back in the map device, and keep going. With that being said, talking about the maps, here we are on the Atlas. You should start off right around here. You shouldn't have like a ton of stuff, discovered like I do yet, obviously. You should only have a little small section. And Doriani should have already explained to you that there's some corruption area near home base, and that's what we're here to deal with. This is how you're going to get your Atlas points in the new league. Well, it's one of two ways. So, of course, the first thing I'm going to recommend you do is once you get to your hideout, you've got it set up, and you come to your Atlas, is start heading towards that initial corruption. The overall aspect of how I would progress quickly in the end game when it comes to the Atlas would be I'm looking for corrupted Nexuses as quickly as possible. I'm trying to do different unique maps as quickly as possible because that's the other way that you get your Atlas points. You need to do 5 different unique maps. Each of these will give you 2, and then you need to cleanse 15 corrupted Nexuses. Each of those will give you 2, totaling up to 40 total points. In addition to progressing your Atlas passive points, you should also be pretty focused on getting XP and just upping your Waystone tier as quickly as possible. Quick little tip with this is if you socket a Waystone into an Atlas node, it'll tell you the monster level. Tier 15s are going to be level 79, irradiated tier 15s are going to be level 80, and then corrupted T16s in an irradiated map can be level 81. Kind of golden rule here is stay anywhere between like 5 to 9 levels away from the monster level, otherwise you'll have pretty significant XP drop off. And as you're going through the Waystone tiers, I'm going to recommend you just transmute and augment your maps at first. Once you get to like at least tier 11, then you can start regaling and alching them if you prefer. I didn't really start doing that until like T13 or 14, like from a fresh league start, because there just aren't that many regals and alchemies that are dropping right now. And at that time, they were still a little bit expensive, but the price on them has probably gone down. So just use your best judgment there. If you've got more currency, feel free to start alching them earlier, but that's up to you. And just to clarify really quick, the reason why progressing your Atlas passives and upping your level and Waystone tiers first is so important is because you're going to make a lot more currency whenever you're doing juiced up T15 Waystones as opposed to doing like low level Waystones without your Atlas passives. There's a couple reasons for this, but the obvious one is you're getting all of your Atlas passives, so you're going to get a lot more juice in your maps. But then in addition to that, the monster level of the zone is also going to equate to the item level of the items that drop on the ground. And the higher the item level the item is, the better the modifiers that can roll on it. So this is going to be really important, especially in like a fresh league. If you can rush up to T15 Waystones, start getting those high item level items, identifying them, and then a lot of times you don't even have to roll them out. But, if you have extra currency to roll them out, you can end up getting really good items to throw on the market right away and make a lot of currency. As for finding the corrupted nexuses and the unique maps, there's a couple of really important tips I can give you really quick. One, for the corrupted nexuses, the best thing that helped me so far is if you look around in the Fog of War, if you look at your towers, when you see one that has like these red branches or like brambly stuff going on, you know that there's a corrupted zone nearby. Therefore, there's going to be a corrupted nexus, aka you can go get some passive points if you go up and discover that section. In addition to that, there's also like you can see the corrupted nexus itself in the Fog of War a lot of times. I can't see it right now, which is unfortunate to be able to show you, but it looks like a little 3-claw thing coming up out of the ground or out of the Fog of War, and there'll be like some black swirly mist stuff around it. Once you see it, you'll know. You can't miss it. And yeah, so that's really helpful for finding the corrupted nexuses. That's pretty much the only like way to have any idea of where to go as far as I can tell. And then for the unique maps, these are a bit harder to pin down. Honestly, I've done probably 15 plus unique maps, but I've only done 3 different ones. Obviously, you're getting Atlas points for each different one you do for the first 5, and you get 2 points each. The best advice I can give here, and I heard this from someone in chat, and I kind of think they're right, is to try and go to different biomes as much as possible. And in theory, they're probably attached to biomes in some way. Like the Wildwood you can see here is in the forest biome. The Megalith unique map, wherever that one is in the grass biome. And I think I've seen this one usually in the grass biome. I've done like 7 of these. So maybe there's one in the ice biome. This Untainted Paradise that I just did was in a water biome. So, maybe there's another one in an ice biome. Who knows? I'm not sure exactly where all of them are, but they're probably related to the biomes somehow. So just keep switching biomes as much as you can. Go to different biomes that you haven't been to before, and that's how you should be able to find them. And as a quick final note for the TLDR, the last thing I'll touch on here is just like tablets, towers, Waystone sustain stuff. So while leveling up from like 65 to 80 and getting your Atlas passive points and stuff, I wouldn't focus on towers too much. Like I wouldn't focus on setting up 3 towers and trying to put the best tablets or whatever, because ultimately you're just going to be moving around and exploring. And there's kind of this like juxtaposition in the beginning of the end game where one part of the progression wants you to like explore as much as possible to get the nexuses and the unique maps. And then on the other hand, you have the towers, which kind of wants you to like stop, hunker down, set up these towers, and then just do all the maps in that zone. But I think initially you shouldn't really hunker down. You should focus on just getting your points, and you'll get enough XP without towers and stuff. But doing towers on the way to your corrupted nexuses and whatnot, I think it's fine. While leveling up and in that early stage of 65 to 80, I'm going to recommend for your tablets, and the way the new towers work is when you do one, the number of tablet slots you get is dependent upon the number of mods of the Waystone that you use to complete the tower. So for starters, you just get 1 tablet slot for free, I believe, just for completing it. For 4 mods on the Waystone, you get 2 tablet slots, and for 6, you get 3. Initially, while leveling up and your character's not that great, I'd recommend just trying to alch the Waystone, do a 4 mod one, get the 2 tablet slots, you'll be good to go. If your character's really strong and you want to do 6 mods, go for it. But for those 2 slots, I'm going to recommend just putting in a boss tablet for one of them, because every time you kill a boss, this is going to give you a higher tier Waystone. This is actually the only real way to go up in tiers that I'm aware of. And then outside of that, just general Waystone sustain is very easy. you'll get a Waystone of the equivalent tier of the one you're doing, guaranteed from every map from just killing the last rare. And then when you kill a boss on the boss maps, you'll go up a tier, obviously. And so putting in boss tablets are quite nice. If you can find ones that have increased experience, I don't think I have any boss ones with increased experience right now in this tab, or this other tab. You get a lot of tablets as well, but increased experience is nice. Increased rare monsters is really good for currency as you get deeper into the game, but when you're just starting off, it doesn't really matter too much about the mods. Like, it's mainly about the base type of the tablet. So one boss, and then the other one, I would recommend either Breach or Delirium, actually, because it seems like there's just a lot of monster density in Breaches and even Delirium now. The new version of Delirium, it's kind of reworked. You get a lot of extra monsters, which just results in more XP. And actually, just one more thing, the actual final thing for the TLDR is when you're just starting out and you don't have all of your Atlas passives, your first 20 points, I would say, should look something like this. I wouldn't recommend diving in to any of the specific mechanics unless you just want to for fun. Then, that's up to you, that's fun. But if you're just trying to level up quickly and get more Waystones and stuff like that, this is going to be great. It's a lot of monsters, a lot of things directly for your Waystones, more items, stuff like that. This is going to be really good to start off. And then once you have more points, I'm going to talk about more Atlas passive ideas later in the video. So if you're just interested in that, stay tuned. And I'll try and include a link in the description to something that has multiple different planner ideas that I talk about later. Alrighty, so now that we're through the TLDR, I'm just going to rapid fire through the rest of these specific topics, starting off with how to level up quickly. As we said in the TLDR, obviously go up in Waystone tier as quick as possible, staying within that 5 to 9 difference range between your level and the monster level of the Waystone that you're doing, obviously. You should be transmuting and augmenting your maps. Around tier 11, you can start alching them. For towers and tablets, you shouldn't focus on these too much at the beginning, but when you do them on your way to Corrupted Nexuses, you should be looking for increased experience. Obviously, that's a really good one. In addition to that, map boss tablets are quite good, and then also anything that increases the number of monsters in your map. So this would be like increased magic monsters in your map, increased rare monsters in your map, stuff like that, pack size, monster density on breach tablets. Using boss tablet, like one boss tablet, and then either one breach or one delirium, or a boss, a breach, and a delirium for 65 to 80 is pretty good. Once you're above level 81, and really as you get closer to 90, like 85 plus, you should start transitioning your tablets a little bit, and I would recommend dropping the boss tablet. Keep in mind, some of this is subject to change, but right now my preferred set of tablets tends to be one irradiated for the +1 level to get more XP, because it's really important as you get to around level 90. And then in addition to that, I'm either doing a delirium and a breach, or I'm doing a breach and a ritual. And I'm kind of staying away from Expedition at the moment, but that's just for other reasons. I tend to like Breach, Delirium, and Ritual right now. Tips for getting your Atlas passive points quickly. We already talked about this in the TLDR as well, obviously, but I'm just going to go over it again really quickly. TLDR here, or the quick version of this, the specifics, is if you look in your Fog of War, you find towers in the Fog of War that have these little red bramble branches on them. That means there's corruption nearby. You can also sometimes see the Corrupted Nexus itself within the Fog of War. It looks like a little 3-claw with black swirly mist. And then in addition to that, for the unique maps, you should just be trying to change zones as much as possible, because it does seem like the unique maps are tied to different biomes. The Viridian Wildwood, for example, being in the forest, the Megalith, for example, being in the grass biome, and the Untainted Paradise, for example, being in the water biome. So it's likely that there'll be one in the ice biome or something like that. You get the idea. When it comes to the Atlas passive tree and different ideas, I'll try and include a link in the description to some different Atlas passive setups that I think are going to be good. Here, I'm just going to go over the specifics of what I have tested so far and what I am confident is probably going to be pretty good, or just some different ideas that I have. And obviously in the TLDR, we talked about if you only have 20 points, what you should probably do. That'll be in the description as well. It's kind of just like these starting areas right here and right here. They're really good for just your specific Waystones. And just all around good for getting more XP and stuff. But as you start to get more points, and obviously I don't have all of my points yet, this is not due to a shortage of playtime. As you can see, I've played this character for over 4 days already. Finding the unique maps and the Corrupted Nexuses is honestly, I don't want to say it's annoying, but it's it's not really deterministic. You just kind of have to keep going out in random directions and hope and pray that you see a corrupted tower in the Fog of War. So this can take a little bit. Maybe I'm bad. I don't know. But anyways, so what I have tested so far is the Asmeri spirits. I've gone full into this section in combination with essences, and I can say that so far in my experience, Asmeri spirits are kind of poop. It doesn't help that it's hard to quantify how valuable they are because they possess a rare, and then you kill the rare, and it's like hard to tell what was from the rare and what was from the spirit. But long story short, I've messed around with this. I've even used the omens that you can get from the currency exchange that allow you to, like, when you kill a monster that has a spirit, it'll release it, and that spirit will go find another rare monster. But long story short, the Asmeri spirits are just kind of mid. They also functionally have some issues. Whenever, one, if there's no more rares on the map, they just disappear. Two, if they're like on their way to a rare and you kill the rare before they get there, then like they won't possess the rare, and then they have to go try and find another rare. And it's just kind of there's a couple issues with them functionally, but beyond that, they didn't seem to provide that much loot. I do think that the different wisps provide different things, and it seems like the purple one is the currency wisp in my experience. So do with that what you will, but I've spec'd out of it. I'm probably not going to go back unless they make some changes, perhaps. With all that being said, I do think it's kind of a fun mechanic if it worked a little bit better. Essences, on the other hand, I'm pretty confident essences are quite good. You can get a lot of essences, and although most of them don't sell for a ton individually, except for like the corrupted new 4 special essences, which each sell for like 10 plus exalted, which is kind of nice. Outside of that, you just get so many essences that over a period of time, you're going to build these up in bulk. Some of the greater essences sell for like 10 exalted each as well. And I think this is going to be like a solid way to just make, consistent currency, although maybe not the best way overall. Moving on from that, Rogue Exiles. I just recently spec'd towards Rogue Exiles, and they seem pretty decent, if I'm being honest. Especially like earlier in the league or as early into the league as possible where there's not a plethora of gear on the market. The kind of like gear that the Rogue Exiles seem to drop, where it's like kind of good, kind of bad, is actually pretty decent for selling and like rolling on top of and trying to, gamble and make it better. With that being said, I think as we get later into the game and there's just like better items, filling up the market, that this might be less good, but I'm not positive on that yet. I still do have to do more testing, but I think this is pretty decent. Like early on, if I had to start over and do it again, I would probably go Essences, Rogue Exiles first. Not to mention, there's a lot of other good nodes up here as well for increased explicit effect of your Waystones or for your tablets and your towers. So you get just like a lot of overall efficiency from this section of the Atlas passive tree as well. And then finally, for strong boxes and shrines, I actually think strong boxes are quite strong right now, are going to be pretty good for making currency. Particularly some of the unique strong boxes are pretty sweet and they're very well designed, like they're very fun to interact with. But just beyond that, the way the strong boxes spawn monsters now is way, 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 way quicker. And also, it seems like the loot from them is pretty decent at this point. For those of you that don't know, you can like upgrade the strong boxes in your map. You can identify them and then apply currency to them, like transmute, augment, regal, alking them. Obviously, you can even exalt them, corrupt them, all that good stuff. And it seems like the loot here is pretty decent. And I haven't even like gone and spec'd down into this part of the Atlas passive tree yet to enhance it. But even just a baseline, it feels pretty good. So I do envision that strong boxes are going to be quite strong. As for shrines, it's hard to envision that shrines are going to be super good for increasing your currency gains, but I'm willing to be proven wrong, and I do intend to actually come test this at some point very soon, because theoretically there's a world where you're getting so many shrines, speed shrines, extra damage, and even some of these special shrines right here, like increased rarity, XP and stuff, that you're just ultimately so much more efficient and you're doing that many more maps over the course of an hour, that shrines actually could be good for currency. Especially if, spirits and rogue exiles end up just not being that good as we get later into the league. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being good. Obviously, I haven't tested it yet, but I do intend to. So just something to keep in mind there. For the Pinnacle passive points, my tried and true is going to be Breach and Delirium. This just makes so many more of your maps just have so many more monsters. It's just like enjoyable to play. It's also very solid for making currency, especially early into the league. With that being said, Ritual I think is going to be like a hidden, absolute juicer this league. It was already really good last league, and people were kind of sleeping on it up until towards the end. But I do think this is actually going to be really good. And then Expedition, as far as I'm concerned, maybe there's some value with the Recombinator, but outside of that, it seems like just farming for Expedition logbooks is pretty much the way to go for this. And I think it's kind of slept on, but at the same time, I haven't fully tested it out. I've heard people say that they make a ton of currency by just maxing this out, farming Expedition logbooks over and over, but I haven't really messed with it personally, and I can't say how good it is, but to my understanding, that's what you would want to do if you wanted to make currency doing this. In regards to getting your Pinnacle points, obviously, if you don't know, for each of them, it's going to be a little bit different, but for Breach and Delirium, you're going to stack up these splinters over the course of doing maps. You'll stack up Breach splinters. I've already obviously done a couple of Zest kills at this point, but when you get 300 Breach splinters, you put them together, you create a Breach stone, you can go do Zest. You have to do them in multiple different stages of difficulty, so starting at T0, then T1, then T2, then T3, and after you complete T3, you will have all 8 of your points, and then there's a final difficulty, tier 4, which is just for like special unique drops. It doesn't help you get any of your Atlas passive points or anything. That's how you do Breach and Delirium. For Ritual, you have to get lucky and find, I actually have one, you have to find one of these, an Audience with the King. They have the opportunity to present themselves in one of the ritual altars within a map. And then at that point, you either have to buy it or you have to defer it, and it'll come back later, and then you can buy it then. Trick to getting these is basically do the rituals, and then if you have like 1,600 or more tribute remaining, you can re-roll it, and if it shows up, you'll still have enough tribute remaining to defer it for the next map, or like the next time you do rituals, and then it'll come back, and you can buy it that time. And it's quite good. These sell for like a divine each, so they're pretty nice to find. And obviously that is also how you get your ritual passive points as well. You socket that in to, and this is the same thing for the Breach Stone and Delirium Splitters and stuff, but you socket that in here, the Realm Gate, and that's how you go interact with the Pinnacle encounter. Delirium is same as Breach, basically. You do Delirium maps, you get Delirium Splinters, you turn 300 of them into a Simulacrum, then you can interact with the Simulacrum encounter, which Simulacrum is very, very hard, just a warning, unless they significantly nerfed it or something. And then Expedition, for Expedition, you have to do the Expedition logbooks. I have one of those as well. That's to be tier 79 or above, I believe. You go to the Expedition logbook, and there is a chance that the boss will show up in the place that you go to. And if he does, you can fight him, and then you can get your points. But it's only a chance, so it's not guaranteed. That's why the Expedition logbooks are a little bit less expensive than the other things. For Waystones and tablets, I've already talked about these a fair bit in the video, so I'm going to try and keep this pretty brief. But I think for late game currency farming, my preliminary thoughts on tablets, obviously this is subject to change, but I'm pretty confident about some of this, is that increased rare monsters in your maps, as you can see here on the second or the bottom modifier, I think increased rare monsters in your maps is going to be probably the best modifier in tablets, just generally speaking, unless you're doing something very specific with Expedition. So just getting a bunch of increased rare monsters is going to be insane, because that's where most of the currency and loot comes from. Beyond that, increased quantity of items has been nerfed this league because the modifier, the range at which it can roll, is much lower. But I still think it's actually going to be good, obviously in combination with increased rare monsters and the whole new tower system with just how many mods you can get on your maps and stuff. So quantity of items, increased rare monsters is probably going to be the best. And then beyond that, increased rarity of items is like a soft third. It's probably going to be fine as well, but I don't think it's going to be as good as the previous two. And then finally, an idea for Expedition that I have. I don't have really any ideas for Ritual other than just using Ritual tablets with these general good modifiers. But for Expedition, if you're interested in that, I do think increased quantity of Expedition logbooks dropped by runic monsters, or if there's one for excavated chests, but I don't think there is. I think it's just for runic monsters. Getting a bunch of Expedition tablets that all have that to the point where you can just get a lot of Expedition logbooks is probably going to be a pretty sleeper, good way to make currency as well. For how to make currency, I've already gone over a lot in the video that should help you with that, and specific in regards to like just getting raw currency drops. I'm going to touch on rarity of items found really quickly though, and say that I do think rarity of items found still feels like honestly just probably too good. When you're running around with like 10-15% rarity, the amount of raw currency I was getting was just pretty abysmal. I was getting like an exalted orb here or there, and that was pretty much it. I was getting no perfect jewelers, no divines, nothing of like really good value. As soon as I moved up closer to 100%, which I believe in the patch notes they said they were starting the diminishing returns right around 100%. So going beyond that is probably going to be much less effective. But getting up towards 100%, I'm sitting at 84% now, as you can see. And like the currency is just night and day. I mean, now I've gotten like 3 perfect jeweler drops. I've gotten raw divine drops. I've gotten reliquary keys. I've gotten an audience with the king. I'm getting so many more exalteds. I'm getting like triple exalted drops from one rare. I'm getting an exalted and a chaos from a rare. It's just so much better. Thankfully now at least like you don't need to get nearly as much, and it still starts to feel really good. But I do think getting close to 100% is very, very important. And if you want to make more currency, it is like kind of mandatory. So just something to keep in mind. You'll start to make a lot more raw currency once you get some rarity of items found. In addition to that, though, another big bulk of how you should be making currency, especially early into the league, is going to be by identifying and selling items. The less currency you have to play with, like I've probably already made 10 to 15 divines at this point, but the less currency you have to play with, the less you should be thinking about gambling them or rolling them out. And the more you should just be thinking about getting done with the map, coming back, identifying everything, slamming it in your dump tab, pulling it out into your inventory, going through it. And then when you find something that you think is maybe good, I don't know, this probably isn't good, but I'm just going to pull it out. Obviously, you get a price checker, especially if you're a beginner. You pull it up. It's being wonky. It goes to behind my game for some reason. But you pull it up, and then you can just run through it, see if it looks like it's going to be worth anything. Okay, this is worth maybe 1 to 2 exalted. I'm just going to slap it in the big fat 1 exalted tab, which is set exact price on all items, and I'm going to get back to mapping. Beyond that, as you start to get a little bit more currency, particularly on items that are item level like 79, 80, 81, and 82, but I would say really like 81 is preferred. 79 is kind of like a minimum. Like I probably wouldn't be gambling on items that are below item level 79-ish, but particularly on items above that item level, once you start to get more currency, you should actually start to gamble them out if they are good. So if you find, I don't have any like set aside ready to go through as an example, but if you find something that's like a magic item with a couple of good stats, then of course you could start to roll it. I'll just like use this breach ring. Here's a normal breach ring. Okay, it's item level 80. Awesome. I'm going to alch it. Let's see. It's pretty mid. It's not the worst thing ever. I probably wouldn't roll this, but if you wanted to, like if it was better stats, obviously you just exalt it at that point. Okay, it's got lightning, max life strength, and lightning res. It's not terrible. It's probably worth an exalted or two. And then, holy shit, well, that's, normally that would not happen, but we rolled a T9 flat fire roll. So now all of a sudden this probably became worth some decent amount of currency. It's not going to be the best thing in the world, but looking against all rings in general, it's worth definitely something. And there's not even any breach rings with it, or with these stats exactly. If I take off the lightning res, T9 fire, life strength, it's a pretty decent ring. So now I could throw this in my individually priced sell tab. I'll put the exact price. Let me actually move it over here so you guys can see a little bit better. I'll set the exact price to 25 exalted. And little golden rule here, or like super helpful tip if you're a beginner, is just try to get an idea of what you think the item is worth by using the price checker, and then just set the price higher than that, like a little bit higher. If it doesn't sell in the first 30 minutes, hour or so, depending on how much time you play or you have to play, maybe you want to change these parameters a little bit. But if it doesn't sell in like the first 30 minutes to an hour, come back, drop it. So now 15. Still doesn't sell? Okay, sell it for 5. And if it doesn't sell at that point, you should probably try and understand why it wasn't actually worth what you thought it was, and then just kind of like move on to the next item, and it's all good. You can just throw it in your, 1 exalted dump tab, and it's all good. If it doesn't sell there, it's not the end of the world. You'll learn, move on. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about is just kind of like some character specific stuff based on things I've learned from experiencing the end game in 0.2 now. So currently the balance of the end game seems a little wonky in my opinion. Maybe you guys have a different experience. Feel free to let me know in the comments. But it seems like the end game, even in maps, like not just bosses, but even just like regular map monsters, rares, magics, even normal white mobs, a lot of it feels like it's kind of too one shot or to be one shot. So particularly while you're in those first early levels, like 65 to 80, I would honestly just recommend going pretty much, balls to the wall on damage and speed as opposed to worrying about defenses too much. Obviously, this is soft core trade league advice. This doesn't apply if you're playing hardcore, but just go balls to the wall, damage and speed. And the reason here is because you're probably going to die. Like, just it's going to happen. Deal with it. But the XP penalty is so insignificant up until like level 85 plus. You're going to be making so much more XP than you're losing that you should just be trying to one-shot everything if you can. And this is obviously going to be kind of dependent on your build. But if you can, just try and one-shot everything, get as much XP as you can, and play like that. As you get to a higher level, like 85 plus, I would say you should start focusing on trying to have a surplus of damage, like from your gear specifically. Hopefully you've been upgrading your gear, you get more passive points and stuff. Once you have a surplus, you should start transitioning away from damage where you can and set up for more speed and survivability because the XP penalty is going to start to sting. So something you can do here, GGG, they said they're adding this as a feature in the future, so I'm just kind of like pre-planning for it and doing it manually. But they're going to make it to where you can automatically swap your weapons and you'll basically just be using the same weapons. So you'll be able to make use of the double weapon set feature in the passive tree, as well as like setting certain spirit gems and stuff to only a certain weapon set. So the idea is you can have basically a mapping setup and then like a boss setup. And typically for mapping, it depends on your build again, but while you're mapping, you should have a surplus of damage to the point to where you don't need to spec into a ton of damage in the passive tree. And a lot of your deaths or a lot of the damage you take and like the random one-shots that occur are just during the regular map. So for your weapon set 1, which is my red lines, you can allot a lot of points towards defense and speed to help with your efficiency, and you can trade off damage because you shouldn't need that much damage to kill like white and magic and rare mobs. And then for your second weapon set, which is the green lines here, you can see that I've gone pretty much going back to what I did before minus the speed. I'm just giving up all of the speed and the defense for just straight damage. So like I've got speed and defense here for my mapping setup. I've got speed here for my mapping setup. I've got defense here for my mapping setup. I've got speed here for my mapping setup. But for bosses, so when I get to like the end of the map and I have to kill a map boss, or more specifically for Pinnacle bosses right now, my character's kind of strong, but for Pinnacle bosses, I swap over to weapon set 2. So I just hit the weapon set 2, drag my shield, drag my spear, good to go. Now I'm on weapon set 2, and you can see the green lines are activated. I'll change my spirit skill really quick. I'll deactivate my Roa, turn on cast on shock, and then after that, I'll just fight the boss. And my weapon set 2 passive tree is just full damage, full stop. I've got damage everywhere I can think to put it, like just, massively nuking bosses. Like my character's already doing probably 1,000,000 plus DPS, and it's in part due to the fact that I have this double weapon set up ready to go. And once GGG actually adds this feature, this will just be that much better because you'll be able to do it all with the click of a button by just hitting your weapon swap key. And that's going to conclude the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and hopefully it was helpful. If you want to get my build up and running, what you saw at the beginning of the video, I do have some videos on my channel for that with written planners, trade links, everything you need to get it up and running. It's extremely strong, makes, turns the whole end game into light work. I've already obviously killed T1 Zesht. I plan to probably kill T2, T3, maybe even T4 Zesht today on stream. And yeah, beyond that, I do also have plans to finish out the rest of the Atlas passive tree, test everything out, and then I'll be making an Atlas passive skill tree tier list. And then beyond that, I do also plan to test just all of the currency methods again. I tested a lot of them in the first league, but I want to retest them in this league. And then I'm going to make a currency making tier list for just everything, whether it's an Atlas passive strategy or it's something like doing Trial of Sekimas, which, as you guys may know, is kind of a favorite of mine. So we're going to have to test all that out, see what all they've changed, and I'm sure they will continue to make changes. So keep in mind, a lot of this is subject to change. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys on stream later. Take it easy, chefs. And last but not least, take it easy, chefs.